a champion who survived the most dangerous era of NASCAR only to perish in a small plane crash. These are the saddest NASCAR moments. Welcome to Track Reactions, your source for all the stories on and off the track. Please like this video and subscribe to get the latest burnt rubber. Bobby Meyers' fatal crash, 1957. When the Southern 500 green flag dropped at Darlington in September 1957, nobody could have predicted the horror waiting on lap 27. Bobby Meyers had qualified his Petty Enterprises Oldsmobile in second position, determined to make his mark on NASCAR's most prestigious race of that era. With a promising career ahead as part of the legendary Petty racing family, Meyers had even led his first lap in Grand National competition during the race, a milestone that would tragically become his last achievement in racing. The catastrophe unfolded when Fonty Flock spun on the back stretch in turn 3, his car coming to a rest perpendicular to the track. Before anyone could react, Meyers and Paul Goldsmith both slammed into Flock's stopped car at full speed. The violent impact sent Meyers' car flipping side over side and barrel rolling across the track in a horrifying spectacle that silenced the Darlington crowd. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, but it was already too late for the promising driver. While Goldsmith suffered serious injuries and Flock's career ended that day, Meyers paid the ultimate price, becoming one of the early casualties in a sport that was only beginning to understand the deadly physics of high-speed racing. As racing continued through the dangerous decades of the 50s and 60s, it wasn't long before another NASCAR star would face a terrifying fate, this time in the searing heat of flames that would forever change how drivers protect themselves on the track. Fireball Roberts' fiery crash, 1964. Glenn "Fireball" Roberts earned his nickname not from racing, but from his blazing fastball as a baseball player. Tragically, that nickname would take on a horrific new meaning on May 24, 1964. During the World 600 at Charlotte, Roberts qualified 11th and was running in the middle of the pack on lap 7 when disaster struck. Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson collided and spun out ahead of him. As Roberts tried to avoid the wreck, his Ford slammed backward into the inside retaining wall, flipped over, and burst into flames. Witnesses at the track claimed they could hear Roberts screaming, "Ned, help me!" from inside his burning car. Jarrett rushed to the scene, pulling Roberts from the inferno, but not before the flames had done catastrophic damage. Roberts suffered second and third degree burns over 80% of his body and was airlifted to a hospital in critical condition. For several weeks, it appeared Roberts might survive his injuries, but on June 30th, he contracted pneumonia and sepsis, slipping into a coma by the next day. On July 2nd, 1964, one of NASCAR's brightest stars was gone. Perhaps the cruelest twist in Roberts' story is that many sources reported he was planning to retire, having taken a public relations position at the Falstaff Brewing Company. The race in which he was killed was to be one of the final races of his career. The same year that claimed Fireball Roberts would take another racing star whose flamboyant personality and racing skill had made him a fan favorite across the NASCAR world. Curtis Turner's tragic end, 1970. Curtis Turner wasn't just another NASCAR driver. The blonde blizzard of Virginia was a larger-than-life character who lived as hard as he raced. Known for staying out partying until the early hours with fellow driver Joe Weatherly, Turner's off-track exploits became nearly as legendary as his on-track accomplishments, which included being the only NASCAR driver to win 2 Grand National races in a row from the pole by leading every lap. Turner's life story read like a Hollywood script, from running moonshine through the mountains as a teenager to conceptualizing and building Charlotte Motor Speedway, only to be forced out by his business partners. His career faced another setback when NASCAR banned him in 1961 for attempting to organize a drivers' union, though he eventually returned to racing and claimed victory at the inaugural American 500 at Rockingham. On October 4, 1970, Turner was piloting his Aero Commander 500 with golfer Clarence King as his passenger. Shortly after takeoff from the Dubois Jefferson Airport in Pennsylvania, the plane crashed near Punxsutawney, killing both men instantly. Turner was preparing to compete in that week's National 500 at Charlotte, a race he would never reach. The racing world mourned the loss of one of its most colorful characters, a man who had survived NASCAR's most dangerous era, only to perish in aviation. As the 1970s gave way to the 80s and 90s, NASCAR saw improved safety measures and fewer fatalities. The sport was growing rapidly, attracting new fans and sponsors, with many believing the most dangerous days were behind them. Then came the tragic year 2000, a devastating reminder that racing at 180 miles per hour always carries mortal risk, regardless of the era. Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. tragedies, 2000. Adam Petty wasn't just another young driver. He was NASCAR royalty, a fourth-generation racer carrying one of the sport's most legendary names into the future. As the great-grandson of NASCAR pioneer Lee Petty, grandson of seven-time champion Richard Petty, and son of Cup Series veteran Kyle Petty, 19-year-old Adam represented the future of both his family's racing dynasty and the sport itself. On May 12, 2000, during practice for a Busch Series race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Petty's throttle stuck wide open going into the third turn. His car hit the outside wall virtually head-on, causing a basilar skull fraction that killed him instantly. The racing world was devastated. The Petty family had already experienced racing tragedy when Adam's great-uncle, Richard's brother Randy, was killed during a practice session at Daytona in 1975. But Adam's death struck at the very future of NASCAR's first family. Kyle Petty, Adam's father, made the heart-wrenching decision to take over his son's number 45 car for the remainder of the 2000 season before adopting the number for his own Cup Series ride throughout the rest of his career. Just 8 weeks after Adam's fatal crash, the NASCAR community was forced to relive the nightmare when 30-year-old Kenny Irwin Jr. died in a crash during practice at the exact same spot on the track. Irwin, a former USAC champion who had earned NASCAR Rookie of the Year honors in 1998, was practicing for the ThatLook.com 300 when his car slammed head-on into the Turn 3 wall on July 7, 2000. His car flipped onto its side, slid along the track, and eventually rolled onto its roof. Like Petty before him, Irwin died instantly of a basilar skull fracture. The accident was blamed on a stuck throttle, the identical cause of Petty's fatal crash. The stunning similarities between the two accidents, same track, same turn, same cause, same injuries, forced NASCAR to finally take action. The sanctioning body mandated a kill switch on the steering wheel to cut power in emergencies and implemented restrictor plates for the September race at New Hampshire. Despite these changes, NASCAR still hadn't mandated head and neck restraints, with many drivers resistant to change and the sanctioning body reluctant to force the issue. This reluctance would prove fatal just a few months later on NASCAR's biggest stage, when the sport's biggest star would meet the same fate that claimed Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. Dale Earnhardt's death, 2001. February 18, 2001 started as a day of celebration for Dale Earnhardt. His Dale Earnhardt Inc. team cars were running first and second in the Daytona 500, and as the final lap began, the Intimidator was perfectly positioned in third place, blocking for Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Jr. ahead. As the leaders raced down the back stretch for the final time, none of the viewers could have imagined they were watching the last lap of Earnhardt's life. What few people knew was that earlier in the race, following a massive 18-car pileup on lap 173, Earnhardt had made an eerily prophetic comment to his car owner Richard Childress over the radio. "Richard, if they don't do something to these cars, it's going to end up killing somebody." Those chilling words would prove true just 27 laps later. In Turn 4, Earnhardt made light contact with Sterling Marlin, lost control, and slid up the track into the path of Ken Schrader. The collision sent Earnhardt's iconic black number 3 Chevrolet head-on into the outside wall at approximately 160 miles per hour. To casual observers, the crash didn't look particularly violent. Earnhardt's car remained on its wheels, and damage appeared relatively minimal compared to the massive 18-car pileup earlier in the race. But as Schrader approached Earnhardt's car and immediately signaled for paramedics, those in the know sensed something was terribly wrong. As Michael Waltrip celebrated his first career win in Victory Lane, unaware of the tragedy that had just unfolded, NASCAR President Mike Helton delivered the words that stunned the racing world. "We've lost Dale Earnhardt." The 7-time champion, NASCAR's biggest star, and the sport's most intimidating presence, was gone at age 49. Another victim of the basilar skull fracture that had claimed Petty, Irwin, and Tony Roper the previous year. Earnhardt's death sent shockwaves far beyond the racing community. His larger-than-life persona had transcended the sport, making him recognizable even to casual fans. Newspapers called February 18, 2001 Black Sunday, and impromptu memorials sprang up outside tracks nationwide. The loss of Earnhardt finally forced NASCAR to mandate head and neck restraints, implement safer barriers at oval tracks, and develop more stringent inspection rules for seats and seat belts. As NASCAR entered a new era of enhanced safety protocols, the sport went more than a decade without losing a driver in competition. Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward Jr. incident, 2014. But not all of NASCAR's darkest moments happen at the sport's highest level. On August 9, 2014, 3-time Cup Series champion Tony Stewart was competing in a Saturday night sprint car race at Canandaigua Motorsports Park in New York when tragedy struck. During the race, Stewart made contact with 20-year-old Kevin Ward Jr., sending the young driver's car into the wall. Under caution, an angry Ward exited his vehicle and walked down the track toward Stewart's car as it came back around. In a horrifying moment captured on video, Stewart's right rear tire struck Ward, throwing him approximately 25 feet. Despite immediate medical attention, Ward was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital due to massive blunt trauma. Though a grand jury declined to indict Stewart on criminal charges, noting that Ward had been under the influence of cannabis at the time, the civil lawsuit filed by Ward's family was eventually settled out of court. This tragedy led directly to NASCAR implementing a rule forbidding drivers from exiting their vehicles and approaching the racing surface after accidents, now known informally as the Kevin Ward Rule, a safety procedure that would have prevented this heartbreaking loss. Unlike many NASCAR tragedies that resulted from mechanical failures or racing accidents, the Stewart-Ward incident remains uniquely painful because of its avoidable nature and the controversy that followed, leaving unanswered questions and unhealed wounds for both families. Which of these racing tragedies do you think had the biggest impact on NASCAR safety? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos about the hidden history of motorsport, make sure to hit that subscribe button. This is Track Reactions, and we'll see you at the track.